Hey, I'm Mondo, and I'm here to help you with your board game design. If you're new to board game design, you may have noticed that a very important part of the whole process is attending conventions. So this video is about conventions and how to choose which conventions for you to go to. First of all, there are three types of conventions in the board game space. The first are these major cons that you've probably heard of, the Gen Cons and the Origins and the PAX Unplugged. These have thousands of attendees, they have big sponsors, they have vendors that are selling a bunch of games, there's just a ton of stuff going on. The second type is the smaller local conventions, which have a similar structure but just fewer attendees, fewer sponsorships. And the third type is design conventions, which are primarily focused on board game design and getting designers together to play test each other's games. Now, of those three, there's an obvious answer to the question of which one's the most beneficial for you as a board game designer, but let's go ahead and talk about all of them. Starting off with the big conventions, these can be a ton of fun as they are just full of people that are all excited about the same things that you as a board gamer are excited about. There's usually big releases or publishers that carry a lot of really interesting games and things that you have maybe wanted to try. Often enormous play spaces with libraries so you can play a bunch of different games as well as buy the newest thing that's out. And often at these big cons, there are events that may be big group plays of your favorite games or panels and workshops about different aspects of board gaming. Now, as a board game designer, these big cons can be really beneficial because not only do you have access to a ton of publishers to whom you can pitch your game, but there's also very often designated playtesting development space. This can look different in different places, but any time that you can bring your game to be playtested by people that are looking to give critical feedback about board games is a positive experience and good, and something that you should look for. So while these big cons have all of these benefits for both board gamers and for designers, there are a couple drawbacks. First of all, the scale of these conventions, especially something like Gen Con, is pretty overwhelming. And if you've never been to a convention before, it can be a lot. Additionally, while there are publishers there that you can pitch to, usually their conventions are very, very full and busy. And they're normally there primarily to sell games rather than to take pitches. So while you do have access to these big publishers, it can be limited. Moving on to the kind of smaller conventions, there's a ton of these in almost every major metropolitan area in the United States. These offer similar structure and a lot of the same benefits as the bigger conventions, with the one drawback of it all being scaled down, meaning there's going to be fewer publishers, there's going to be fewer design-centered events, that type of thing. But what's great about smaller local conventions is access to the local community. Meaning that if there is one of these cons in your town and you attend one of these cons, you have this awesome opportunity to network with other like-minded people that live in the same area as you. And a lot of these cons still have that designated playtesting space, which means that you can connect with other designers in your area. That can be a tremendous asset that is actually really crucial for your whole development process, is to be around other designers and to have your game playtested by people that are used to playtesting and used to giving critical feedback about board games. Some examples of these smaller conventions might be Geekway to the West in St. Louis, Tantrum Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, Salt Con out west. And even those are all kind of like mid-tier, where there's still like a couple thousand attendees. We have small conventions here in Atlanta where the attendee list numbers in the hundreds. And pretty much up and down that scale, you're going to be able to network with local gamers, which is always a good thing. The third type of convention is the design-specific convention. These can be harder to find because they usually don't have big marketing budgets. They're not advertising on the internet typically as much, but there's Unpub in Baltimore, which is probably the biggest, and then we have Proto ATL in Atlanta, there's Proto Spiel in Minnesota. There's like a lot of these. And obviously the benefit here is that you are able to get your game playtested by people who are experienced playtesters and developers who are going to have really insightful feedback for your game that's going to make it better. Some of these also have publishers attending, which means that they are looking for games and scouting. And myself as a developer for the app, we attend these conventions with the hope of finding new games. And usually that's like all we're doing at these conventions. So it's a little bit easier if you can find these conventions that have publishers at them to get their time and to show them your game. Now, while that is true, a lot of these smaller conventions might only have, 2, 3, 4 publishers at it, which is going to be different than the big conventions where there's hundreds. But in my opinion, if you're a designer and your goal is to engage in the design process, to get feedback from playtesters and to connect with publishers, the smaller design conventions are the ones to go to. While they don't offer the grandiose, exciting, big game experience like the Gen Cons of the world, they do give you access to something that is really critical to your design process. And specifically that is other like-minded people who want to make cool games and want to help you make a cool game. So I've mentioned a few of these conventions, but look for the one that's closest to you and see if you can make it. Hope that helps, and good luck.